Anime of the year, and I will take no further questions. And I'm not exaggerating. I legitimately think this is about to be anime of the year. We are 6 episodes into Orb, and a story about different characters over the course of however many years this will run in terms of id anime world universe time. And them discovering that Earth isn't the center of the universe, and the idea of how they go about explaining and showing people in a time where the church basically blinds you and mutilates you if you try to question the holy gospel. The way they go about handling this drama is so freaking good. And whether it's killing characters off unexpectedly, like Raffle, or in last week's episode, still not recovered from that, and the way they continuously introduce more and more characters that get better with time. Ochi is a character I know has potential to grow the most, but as a standalone character, not enough to keep the show going. So then they introduced this badass Badani who the man opened a book to read a single sentence because the challenging of just getting a hold of something that's taboo was enough and worth losing his eyes for. This show is so good. It's not perfect. The one issue I have with it is what I brought up last week. I do think they go too dark with the visuals, like it's hard to see shit when there isn't light on screen, but that's just me. But in terms of characterization and writing and voice acting and music and all the other fun aspects that make an anime so great, it absolutely is delivering. And don't get it twisted, there's a lot of good anime to pick for anime of the year, but I'm not joking. This is legitimately the most compelling show I have seen, and really is the show that has given me the most Vinland Saga vibes since Vinland Saga, and it's just a masterpiece. I have full live reactions though over on Patreon if you want to see my full and good thought to any of these episodes. You know it's over there exclusively. So I think it was in episode 3? No, episode 3 or 4? It was episode 3. No, it had to be episode 3. It was when I did my first impressions of the first 3 episodes. There was this scene with Raffle, and he trips, right? Like he's running or something, and he trips. And he observes the fact that the tree looks like it's moved, but because he's clearly not moving now and looking at it, the tree stood still. And it was this like big breakthrough moment for him of realizing that, well, clearly we're looking at the sky, we can see the stars move, so therefore everything moves around us. But when you trip and fall and it looks like the tree moved, but very clearly you're the one who moved, that's what allowed him to open his eyes and say, oh, actually, maybe the Earth is moving and it's not simply everything revolving around us. That was one of my favorite things that I've seen from this show up until this episode, where we had a very similar moment, but with the demonstration of 2 people going in a circle and representing Earth and Mars. So the big thing that crushed our boy in the previous episodes is that he's been observing Mars for so long, only for Mars not to make the complete circle, but instead double back. And it crushed him. Now, with a character like Badani, he understands that, why didn't he continue the trace? Like, this is what happens every couple of years or whatever it was, right? And the idea that he represented Mars and he was walking in a circle, and then we have our boy Ochi who decides to sprint past him. And the idea of that demonstration is so brilliant because whether you care about the subject matter or not, the way they're explaining it is just so eye-opening, whether you can think of this stuff yourself, or it's like, a lot of these subjects could be very dry, very too complex, or be like, okay, yeah, like, I believe you, but it doesn't make sense. But these simple demonstrations are the way people will, there's a whole reason about the idea of discovering gravity, having an apple fall on your head. Like, those ideas are so simple, but they can be eye-opening when you really put it into practice. So the idea that it looks like Mars is ahead of Earth, but then Earth passes Mars, now it looks like Mars is going the opposite direction. And the idea that with different orbits, because each planet could be moving at a different speed at a different time, they haven't clued into the fact about the sun yet, but they know something in the center is having that loop. And the idea of using that as such a great demonstration, I love the simplistic ideas because there's a reason why, like when I was in school and stuff, I was way more interested listening to Bill Nye the Science Guy than I was my actual science teacher, because Bill Nye gave very simple demonstrations, but it clicks for the brain a lot easier than just, here's this wall of text that I'm reading off a textbook, right? And that's what's so brilliant about this show. And I think what they did a really impressive job with is, I think, our new character. And this is now another MC we're dealing with, and I'm hoping he lasts more than a couple episodes, because out of all of them, I think he probably has the most potential. Up to this point, I would have still said Rafa was the character who had, like, the most, and I still look at some of these scenes and thinking, man, if Rafa was interacting with Vidani, man, like, could you imagine what they'd be able to do together? But luckily, his notes and everything still live on in spirit. But the idea of a character who believes in heaven, believes in the church, but also believes that you have to challenge things. And the idea that there's a scene in the episode where he's getting punished, right? He has to punish himself because, you know, he broke the rules. And he punishes himself extra because then it gives him more leeway that he can break the rules a bit more, and he's already served his time. Metal as hell. Discovers an ancient scripture book. He's about to open it. They barge in saying, "What are you doing?" "Well, you haven't opened it. You don't have to be punished." He reads less than a sentence, but that was enough, because finally, the things he's been searching for, to challenge the beliefs, to learn the taboo that people don't want him to know. It's worth losing both his eyes, because will he ever get another shot to do it? Which explains how he lost one eye, and apparently they did that to both eyes, because the dude says, hopefully you'll be able to keep at least one eye from this. And you can tell when you look at his character, like, yeah, his eyesight isn't the best, which probably explains why he needed our boy to probably observe Mars, because he's not really, probably has the eyesight for it these days. But it's just so brilliant what they're able to do, because these two characters together are great, because as much as I think Ochi's a little infuriating as a character, and I don't use that as an insult, but his character's designed to be like, he's scared to look at the sky, he's naturally pushing back against the story that this wants to tell, but in this episode, we do kind of get a breakthrough. We go from him seeing giant eyes looking down on him, to now realizing that actually this is kind of beautiful. And I like what he says in this episode too, because he talks about the idea that the two people that he's thinking of, both were okay with dying. They weren't scared. They seemed content and at peace, where he's living on Earth just absolutely terrified. So very clearly, like, pushing towards this must make sense, because otherwise, why would they be so content? And like I said, the only issue I actually have about this anime is it's too damn dark. Last episode was worse than this episode, but the idea that I get what they're going for, because when the stars are on screen, they really beautifully light up I get that. But if you look at the first few episodes, it really didn't have that same issue. Like when Rafa was interacting with the Hooded Man and, you know, looking at the stars, they were still dark, but then you have that beauty. I just feel like it's too dark to the point that I wish they would have lit up the characters more. You could have still got across the sense of darkness, but without making things hard to see, because I really feel like you have to crank the screen up an extra 30 on the brightness to be able to see half the shit they want you to. That's just me. I don't think I'm overreacting or nitpicking either. I have seen a lot of people, you know, have this same issue. So hopefully this isn't going to be the whole show, because I do think that would take it down a couple pegs visually, but overall, everything else about the show I am really liking, but it does bother me the past couple of episodes of how dark they are making it. Like, I get it, but they didn't need to go so intense, but that's just me. Let me know what you're thinking about Orb, aka Anime of the Year, down below. Be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here, of course ring that bell, and like I mentioned, we got those full live reactions over on Patreon, and hey, while you're over there, I'll just give you a video shout out. So today we got Travis Basilton, Dr. Gold, Sabrina, Ninja, Marshmallow God, and we also have Mohole, so I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care, and you all have a good one.